With Russia's invasion of Ukraine, NATO seems more important than it's been in a long time. Canada's NATO allies are thinking about raising their defense budgets to meet their NATO targets. How does Canada fit in with this, and what are we seeing with our European allies so far?
Well, we still got that Trump thing. If you remember, Michael, what did Trump? I don't think he called Canada didn't call Canada freeloaders, but I think he kind of said it's kind of like being in a meeting. Yeah, Donald Trump being at like the NATO meeting, going, there are some freeloaders at this meeting who are not spending. We're carrying, the America is carrying the freight.
I think he said we're mildly delinquent or something like that. Mildly delinquent, maybe. But
yeah, maybe he said that, but I think he thought freeloaders because that's the way Trump thinks. Mm-hmm. But the thing is that all NATO allies, there is a target of 2% of GDP. Canada has not come close to meeting that target. I think it's at 1.4 or something like that.
Yeah, 1.39% right now.
Yeah, so at 1.39, that means, and we'll do some quick math, that Canada would have to increase defense spending by 50%, like another 7.7, in order to meet its NATO target. That's a big jump, and the government has been investing, and maybe it hasn't been investing enough for some Canadians, but it has been investing in the Canadian Armed Forces. What's interesting is that we did a survey on defense spending compared to social spending, and I think this is what's important, because this isn't just about what's happening in Ukraine and what might be the requirements from a NATO commitment perspective, but when we asked Canadians on choices, on spending more money on defense, for example, to deal with threats like the war in Ukraine, or dealing with spending more on social issues to deal with the outcome of the pandemic, Canadians were more likely to support defense spending. 45% said they'd like to see more spending on defense. 39% said they'd like to see more spending on social issues. And I think what this speaks to is that I'll say a full throttle movement to 2% of GDP is not necessarily supported by a majority of Canadians. That Canadians are divided. They understand that there's still a lot of social programs and other supports that Canadians need just to survive and get through this pandemic from an economic perspective. However, the war that we're seeing now between Ukraine and Russia has put a spotlight on defense spending. And I would say, that 45%, still pretty significant. 45% of Canadians wanting to see money spent on defense over social programs at this particular point in time.
So meeting our target of 2% would be billions of dollars more per year that we're already spending. Already, NDP leader Jagmeet Singh has called that an arbitrary target. And I'm going back to the start of the show where we talked about the Liberal NDP deal. Are we seeing trouble there ahead already if the Liberals move to raise spending?
Well, for sure. And the thing is for the NDP, what are they going to do? You notice there's a pause. There's nothing that they could do. That they've got it. As long as the Liberals deliver on the things that they promised to deliver on, the reality is that the New Democrats can oppose and criticize, but as long as it's not a confidence motion and not part of the budget or any kind of supply vote, then the NDP can can register their dissent and move forward. But the other interesting thing about this, Michael, is that some of our other NATO allies, and why don't we talk about Germany for a second, have had a change of heart. The current government in Germany is the Social Democrats, Greens, and the Liberals. In Germany, it's a progressive left-wing government, and they came out and said that they would meet their 2% target for defense spending. This represents a significant game changer for Germany and German policy, and it's going to be interesting to see. That's a progressive government that has has made a commitment to go straight to 2%. And I think it's going to be interesting to see. Canada will be, regardless of the domestic political situation, Canada will be compared against all of its other NATO allies and partners on defense spending. And I would hazard to say, if I could make a prediction, that for Canadians on a lot of these issues, they don't want us to spend the most. and they don't want us to spend the least. It's kind of like Goldilocks. They want us to be in the middle of the pack.